Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Midlands Today on the day the government said yes to the controversial £17 billion high-speed rail link between Birmingham and London. I'm in the village of Water Orton in Warwickshire, where a number of homes will be demolished to make way for the rail line. Well, let's just tell you a little bit more about this village. It's home to around 3,500 people. It's got a number of shops, a primary school and 2 pubs. For residents here, life will change dramatically. Anti-HS2 campaigners say the line will damage some of the UK's most beautiful countryside. But the government says it's vital for jobs and growth.
A high-speed line will deliver £6.2 billion more of benefits to the country than a line running at conventional speed, at an extra cost of only £1.4 billion. So by slashing journey times, as well as providing the step change in rail capacity that we need to keep the country moving, it will give a return on the additional investment of more than 4 to 1. A modern, reliable and fast service between our major cities and international gateways, befitting the 21st century, will transform the way we travel and promote Britain's economic and social prosperity.
Well, the issue of high-speed rail has really hit the headlines here in the past few years, but people living in France and Germany have been able to use high-speed railway lines since the early 1980s. But it was only in 2007 when High Speed 1 began operating between London and the Channel Tunnel here in the UK. 3 years later, in March 2010, the then Labour government unveiled plans for the High Speed 2 rail line between London and Birmingham. In December that year, the new coalition government published its preferred route for the High Speed 2 railway line. A public consultation took place between February and July last year. Now the government has approved the route. They're hoping construction on the Birmingham to London line could start in 2018. And by 2026, high-speed rail travel between London and Birmingham could be a reality. Many businesses in the region have welcomed today's announcement approving a high-speed rail route linking the Midlands to London. It's claimed HS2 will create thousands of new jobs and lead to greater levels of investment in the region. There's also the potential for extensive regeneration in Birmingham's east side. It's something already happening at King's Cross in London, where the arrival of High Speed 1 resulted in a huge redevelopment project. Our transport correspondent Peter Plisner has been there to find out more.
Once derelict and run down, now the largest city centre development in Western Europe. 4 million square feet of offices, 2,000 new homes and the promise of 30,000 jobs.
It really is urban regeneration on a massive scale here at King's Cross over the next decade. As the work continues, it's been estimated that they'll be spending in excess of £1 million every day.
And it's all happening just yards from St Pancras International Station, terminus for High Speed 1, the line that goes to the Channel Tunnel. For the site's developers, being close to high-speed rail has made a big difference.
High speed's a big factor. It's not the deciding factor, but possibly without it, I don't know, 50% of the deals we've done wouldn't have happened. Deals may carry on happening a little bit slower, but not everyone's going to want lunch in Paris or have a business meeting in Stuttgart every week or every month. But some people are, and they're the decision makers.
And here's another rundown area, this time Birmingham's east side. Part of this site is set to become the Birmingham city centre station for HS2. Regeneration here has been slow to materialise, but like at King's Cross, experts are now predicting rapid development in the future.
I think it'll make a huge difference. I think it'll cement what was envisaged some 10 years ago when Eastside was created, and because of the recession and other factors, it's stalled, and the announcement of HS2 would really make that happen.
And according to the latest figures, development here could bring in more than £500 million of investment and help generate in excess of 15,000 jobs.
And some of those jobs could be created here. This is the site of the old LDV van factory, which, as you can see, has now been largely demolished, but part of this site could be used as a train maintenance depot for HS2.
But in other parts of the region, the HS2 effect won't be so great, and in places like Telford, not surprisingly, business leaders aren't so keen on the project.
Well, I think Shropshire is the only county in the UK that doesn't have a direct rail link to London, and running a conference centre, that's a huge disadvantage. So direct rail link to Telford, for me, is absolutely critical.
While some might prefer that money destined for HS2 is spent on upgrading the existing rail network, as far as the government's concerned, the regeneration impacts of HS2 appear to have been seen as much more important. Peter Plisner, BBC Midlands Today.
Our political editor Patrick Burns has spent today at Westminster, where there was a demo supporting the high-speed 2 rail link outside Parliament. A number of our MPs, including the Conservative MP for Redditch, Karen Lumley, and the Liberal Democrat MP for Birmingham Yardley, John Hemming, took part. Well, let's go live now to Westminster and talk to Patrick. Patrick, not all of our MPs support HS2, do they?
Oh, that's certainly true, Suzanne. 2 of Coventry's 3 Labour MPs have come out against it, and a succession of Conservatives with constituencies on the proposed route through Warwickshire and Staffordshire particularly have all expressed varying degrees of hostility. But remember, this is a project which commands the official support of all 3 main political parties, which makes it a formidable parliamentary alliance. I'm joined by Gisela Stewart, the Labour MP for Birmingham Edgbaston, who chairs the all-party group in support of HS2, and by Dan Biles, the Conservative MP for Warwickshire North, one of its fiercest critics. We've just been hearing, Dan, about the regenerative potential job creation in areas that desperately need a boost in the West Midlands. You're putting parochial considerations ahead of the greater good.
I'm afraid I simply disagree with that. Firstly, it's very important to remember that Birmingham does not equal the West Midlands. Coventry City Council are against this, Warwickshire County Council are against this. I'm hearing a lot of hope about regeneration. I'm not seeing much evidence.
Gisela, what do you say to Dan's constituents, who we've been hearing from, deeply worried, deeply upset tonight about the damage to their homes, their environment in his constituency?
If this was going through my backyard, I too would feel and would ask that it's absolutely minimised. But let's just look at the whole of the country and the infrastructure which we need to provide the jobs for the West Midlands. And it's not just this first stage. We always keep talking about Birmingham and London. It is about connecting Birmingham then on to Leeds and to Manchester and to Scotland. And we will not just improve those national infrastructure links, but also our regional rail network will improve through that. And I just give you one example. In Birmingham, 1/3 of the under 25s are the city, and 1 of them have got a job. We need to provide jobs.
Dan, I mentioned that this commands a very formidable parliamentary force here at Westminster. Aren't you backing a loser, really? Shouldn't you just throw in the towel?
I don't think so, but I do agree that with all 3 parties in favour of this, it is an uphill struggle. However, I still think it's the wrong thing to do, and if I think it's the wrong thing to do, then I need to stand up and be heard, and I need to make the case. I'll just point out the Transport Select Committee's very, very good report highlighted a number of questions, said they had to be answered before a decision was made. They haven't been answered. Why can we make a decision now?
Last word to you, Gisela. Is it going to happen, yes or no?
Yes, it's going to happen, and the rails are always better than roads or air.
Well, my thanks to you both. Incidentally, Justine Greening, the Transport Secretary, told the Commons this evening that she'll be visiting Birmingham tomorrow, where even Labour MPs, including Gisela Stewart, says she'll guaranteed a very warm welcome. Now back to you.
OK, Patrick, thanks very much. Well, thousands of people across the Midlands have campaigned against the proposed high-speed rail link. Farmers, environmentalists, homeowners and some business people joined forces to lobby the government against the proposals. Their argument being it's too costly and the economic and environmental arguments for it don't stand up. Well, Joan Cummins has spent today talking to residents right here in Water-Orton, which is just one of a number of areas which will be affected by the new line.
Full steam ahead. The government approves a new high-speed rail line between...
Today's announcement came with neighbours in Water-Orton gathering together for support.
I'm absolutely devastated. It means that my home of 27 years is going to be demolished. For what? For a train?
You're just living with worry and uncertainty all of the time.
If this goes ahead, it won't just be living close to a railway. It means that we just won't have a home.
Householders living in the path of HS2 say they haven't been contacted by the company behind the scheme or the government and have years of uncertainty ahead of them.
It'll run from the pylon directly across the field, straight through these houses.
Literally straight through where we're standing?
Straight through these houses where we're standing, yeah. You'll be standing in front of an express train.
There's been a school in Water-Orton since the 1890s. Trees have been planted and an outside classroom created. That will now run parallel to the new high-speed rail line.
I don't really want it because it it ruins the atmosphere around here because it looks really nice at the moment and it'll make it look really horrible.
I'd rather go on a train, which is slower than having a train next to a school.
It'll be years before a train comes through this field in Water-Orton, but in the meantime, local communities say generations will be blighted by the desire to get journey time reduced from Birmingham to London. Joan Cummings, BBC Midlands Today, Water-Orton.
Well, let's talk now to Susan Willis and Mark Willis, who live here in the village, and to Linda Davis, who helps to run the campaign group Water-Orton Against HS2. Thanks very much indeed for coming out here tonight. Obviously, we saw you, Susan, very emotional today, wasn't it, for you?
Yes, it has been quite a trying day, to say the least.
You're going to lose your home in this, aren't you?
That's right,
The home we see here behind us.
That's right, the home that we've lived in for 27 years and built from nothing to what we've got now.
And many people will be watching this saying you'll get compensation. Why are you so worried about losing your house?
Because the compensation package that's being offered is nowhere near the market value of our house. So not only do I lose my house, I'll also be financially changed as well.
Mark, coming into you.
Ruined. I mean, the financial situation at the moment, houses around here are minus 25% just purely because of HS2.
So you're worried you won't be able to find a new home to move into?
Exactly. And the compensation, heavily compensated. I don't call 10% good compensation.
OK, let me just bring in Linda here. Now, you've been running the campaign group, or helping to run the campaign group. Where do you go now? Isn't it all over?
We hope not. We think there's a grounds for a legal challenge. It was decided, Cameron said months ago, it would go ahead before the consultation, and it will be a disaster for the whole country, not just for us. It will stop investment in all the local transport infrastructure for the next 14 years.
Can I just say, a lot of people are saying you've got to look at the bigger picture for the economy, and a few homes really for the whole country might have to go.
It will be a disaster for the whole country. HS1 hasn't worked, and the amount of money that was needed, it will go from the local infrastructure.
Okay.
No one will get any more money for the infrastructure for the next 14 years.
I'm sorry, we have run out of time. Linda, thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much. And Susan, thank you very much too. And you can read more about the high-speed decision on bbc.co.uk/Warwickshire. Well, I'll be back later with a look at the environmental impact HS2 could have on the region. But for now, it's back to Nick for the rest of the day's news. Nick.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yes, and in other news, the campaign group End